If you regularly attend medical courses or meetings, you will agree with me on how useful it will be to have a slot in the forehead where to introduce a chip that gives us the ability to remember what we see and hear in the great number of conferences that are scheduled at each day. But unfortunately, that is not available yet. I am Eduardo Terry from Ecuador to review with you some ideas that can help us improve our presentations. The reality is that by the end of the day or next week, we will have forgotten most of the information that was presented to us. And the same thing happens to everybody. Our memory is too fragile, and the concepts we try to share with our audience and stick in their memory may have a shorter in the memory of our auditorium than the leaves of trees in autumn. And this situation can be accentuated when the presentation is not properly prepared. Too often, the speaker's passion for the subject and his desire to convey as much information in a limited time, and even worse, when the fear of forgetting some details lead him to use an excess of text and bullet points in his slides. When a slide full of text is projected, like the one we see now, our general tendency is to read what is presented to us. We do not have the ability to read and listen at the same time, and, consequently, the assistant cannot pay attention to what is explained. Most of the times, it's a quick glance to the top and left screen areas, and that can lead you to lose the important points that you want to convey. People usually read faster than we can talk. They get distracted and we lose the public's attention. So, if your presentations look like these, it may be due to inertia or custom. It's what we have always seen. Chances are your audience will look like this. The result is often a presentation in which the content of the speaker's slide goes to the cell phones of their attendees without passing, let alone staying, at their brain. In virtual environment, poor presentations can lead to what has been described as Zoom. The bad news is that this is usually due to poor presentation. The good news is that by improving your presentations, you can get a better result. And when we are going to prepare a conference, it's very common that the first thing we do is turn on the computer, start typing text on slides, complementing with multiple statistical graphs, captures of tables and articles, beautifying the presentation with animations, transitions. With our best intention, we try to pack in the limited time we have been assigned as much information as possible. There is plenty of information easily in blogs, publications, videos. The next time you're going to give a presentation, consider whether, instead of giving a lot of redundant information, it is more important to be able to persuade, to convince your audience. Use a narrative that not only makes them think about your message, but feels it, it arouses their interest. This increases your recall and can really lead them to remember and to act. That is, they change after seeing and hearing it. They do not continue to do the same things over and over again. Here I present a methodology that can help improve the recall of your presentations with the proper use of multimedia resources that we currently have. Are those related to the narrative or story, the supporting media, and the delivery of the presentation. It is an adaptation of the concepts developed by Ross Fisher. This is a methodology for those situations in which you should communicate a message that is unique, identifiable, and memorable. that is designed for a specific audience, is supported sparingly by illustrations, and, most important, communicated effectively. Rose Fisher calls the P-cube to his methodology. So let's begin with the story. When we're going to prepare a conference, we usually immediately go to the computer and start PowerPoint, Keynote, or similars and start typing. First, turn off your computer. Take paper and a pen or some post-it sticky notes. Yes, turn off your computer. First things first. To establish the characteristics of your narrative, you must be very clear about who your audience is. I suggest you to write by hand the answers to the following questions. Remember, this method is appropriate when there is a defined audience and you have a specific message that you can express in a maximum of 1 or 2 sentences. For example, the audience for this presentation is medical students, doctors, and professors interested in improving their teaching skills. To define your topic, you should ask yourself, where is the audience now, and where do you want them to be at the end of the presentation? And you have to be specific. You can draw a line and you get your answers. In this case, I want to take you from presenting with text slides to use images instead of text and to convey a strong message, avoiding an excess on information. So now you know who your audience is, where they are, and where you want to take them. It's time to write a summary of the story you are going to tell. Imagine that you are on your way to give a presentation and you are in the corridor or in the elevator with a colleague, and you have 30 seconds to motivate him to attend your conferences. Within that time, you should explain the following: who you are, what is the problem of your audience that you are going to solve. Don't try to stuff this within too much information. Be realistic. Define 1 or 2 messages that you are going to convey. And of course, how you are going to solve it. From now on, everything you add to your presentation should stay within that boundary. A strong and motivating presentation, we can use the antique resource of storytelling in medical education. It helps to create instances of introspection about medical knowledge, facilitates empathy towards patients, for example, dementia or chronic patients. The use of storytelling in medical education is increasingly widespread as they allow the development of reflective learning. And it also provides excellent results in case presentations and health education to the general public. The what you are going to present is secondary and subordinate to the objective of your presentations. What for? Why? So far we have defined the audience and the overall objective of our presentation. But it's not time to go to the computer yet. Try to build a story and draw it with details of this journey. It should go up and down. This is what we call the arc of a story. The characteristic elements of a narrative are, in first place, a hero. If possible, try not to make you the hero. Try to make it somebody else. An obstacle or challenge, a problem. And the journey or narrative until reaching the resolution, very smooth. Within this story, consider mini stories that need resolution, and you'll keep the interest going. For longer presentations, you will need a spark, a mini story every 5 to 7 minutes. The narrative should be familiar to the audience in terms of the environment, the characters, and their motivation. More than feeling familiar, you should identify with the story and the characters. Is there a final explanation that will be memorable? Remember, that is your message. Now we have a general idea of the story, and we can proceed to write, but still on paper, no computer yet. With the script of the story, you can write it step by step, not word by word. And you should be able to visualize the whole story. You can use self-adhesive notes, like Post-it. Now consider which of these steps would benefit from an illustration. You don't need an illustration for each of the posts. You can have an image that can summarize several of the steps. Sometimes you don't even need an image. Sometimes it's better just to have the presenter explain the message. Now this is a good time to review what we have done. Start over. Compare the script to the initial summary and remove anything that doesn't add to the message. You can probably eliminate half of what you intended to say. Seriously, less is more. I'm sure you'll ignore this point, but you will regret it because that is a serious mistake. At this moment, we have defined our story and we can move on to the next step. Yes, now you can turn on your computer and launch your presentation program. But if you are already working on it before, go back to the beginning. You are doing it wrong. This is how it's done. I insist on the need to avoid any text that is not absolutely indispensable. Once you have decided on the illustrations for your talk, get rid of half of them. They are illustrations. You are not preparing a comic, you want to illustrate, not document. This is a very common mistake. Here we see Bill Gates giving a PowerPoint presentation, using a slide absolutely overloaded with information and graphics. Remember, the excess of images like the text confuse and distract the attention of the public. What about statistical tables and graphs? In general, it is not necessary to present them, much less slides as complex as this example. Only present what is absolutely indispensable and must be captured in 3 or 4 seconds without further explanation. Avoid standing charts that are most difficult to understand, especially if they use a lot of colors and are comparative. Supporting information does not need to be part of the presentation. You can provide the references or a printed or electronic document to be delivered or sent to attendees for review in detail and with plenty of time. You define your audience. You know where they are and where you want to take them. You have your message, your script. You prepare a presentation with excellent images and videos. Now it's time to deliver. Remember, an excellent presentation with poor delivery is a complete failure. So here are a few tips. When you're going to deliver your presentation with storytelling, you never begin with, I'm going to tell you a story. Also, try to avoid becoming the hero of the story, as I told you before. You don't have to provide only information. Try to use feelings. Surprise your audience with positive as well as negative messages. The language should be plain, Everybody has to understand you. Make sure the story can be true. Try to be very explicit, very clear, and very strong with the moral, the conclusion, and the recommendations. And so, at this time, neither you nor your audience will have a chance to read. Your role is not to present, it's to represent, to act, to perform. It's up to you to get your message across. Remember to make your audience think, and much more, that they feel, convey emotion. You should not present, you should perform like an actor. Like an actor, you have to practice. You need a stopwatch and ideally some kind of an audience, friend, some family. Stand up and communicate, present your message out loud. Unless you are 10% below the time limit that was granted to you, start again and remove as much of your presentation as needed. Don't try to give it, just talking a little faster to make it fit in the time bracket you have. That won't work. You must finish early in this setup. So, in this way, you will have more time the day of your conference. At this moment, your time has improved dramatically, and you will have a better idea of the steps of your presentations. This is another proof now. Turn off your presentation software. Give your presentation without any help, within time. No notes, no slides. This is what you want to communicate. In summary, this is a methodology that you can apply to give memorable presentations. They are aimed at motivating and transmitting specific messages of high recall. It will work excellent when you have a defined message and you have a specific audience where you want to move them from where they are to start doing something different. To do this, you need to develop a story. And this story has to be properly illustrated, without text, without excessive illustrations. Very important, you have to deliver as a representation. You don't have to present, you don't have to read. In this way, your presentations will be mostly remembered.